BAND-MAID opened for the Last Rock Stars in America on their US tour, and there was some fantastic musicianship, some things to contend with on stage, and some weird comments online afterwards. Let's unpack this. Hi there and welcome back to Japan, and as I'd said before, this whole thing of having BAND-MAID opening for the Last Rock Stars was a total win-win. I mean, just to remind you again, in case for some reason you don't know, the Last Rock Stars are a huge deal, being a supergroup made of some of the most famous names in Japanese rock history. They are out there performing in the US, and they have BAND-MAID, who are not anywhere near as well known, but still a massive up-and-coming force, performing for them as the opening act, warming up the stage for them, whilst, as I say, BAND-MAID are getting exposure to this huge number of fans who obviously love Japanese music and are open to Japanese music at very least. So this was a brilliant win-win. I, like pretty much all of the rest of you who didn't get to see the show live ourselves, did manage to see the footage of it, which was available mysteriously through some sources in the ether. Anyway, I thought it was really interesting. I thought the actual show, the set they played themselves was really good. It was very high energy. It wasn't so much just going for the songs that were most famous. It was going for the ones that would build up the energy most. They really did play a set that was conducive with being an opening act for something really big, you know, really building up the hype. I like the fact that they played it that way. I believe on one of the nights they played 4 songs, and then the clip I saw was where they played the 5 songs. Fair enough, but it was a really good opening act. Now, the thing which was really interesting for me was the stage. The stage was huge, and you could see it was clearly designed for the Last Rock Stars. They had their drum kit up the back, and then it was sort of raised up, and then you had this sort of step-like thing coming down forwards, and BAND-MAID were just playing in a line at the front, which is kind of what you'd expect for an opening act, and as well, the lighting clearly was not designed for them. I assume it was much more of a light show when the Last Rock Stars eventually came on. For BAND-MAID, it was flashing, but it was pretty bright throughout. And this put us in an interesting position where BAND-MAID were kind of just playing there, really heavily lit. No lighting to hide behind, nothing to hide behind like that. Not that they need anything to hide behind, but actually for me it was really nice because that bright lighting and having them all up front in a row just kind of showed how much energy they were putting into the performance. I really loved seeing them bounce around. Psyche was full of movement as usual, even with perhaps less room to move with, you know, not so much room to go backwards and forwards on the stage. I thought that was a fantastic opportunity for them to highlight their energy rather than just look like they're there just sort of, we're here till the next act comes along. No, BAND-MAID really did just show off how much of a stage presence they have, which was just wonderful to see. And one of the interesting things is that for, I think, like the last half of the set, there were people on stage playing with the amps. They were sort of like messing around with stuff, and obviously this is all really well lit, so it's not like they're kind of hiding in the shadows fixing things. They're right there, and there's one bit where like Misa's just sort of bouncing between them, jumping over what I'm assuming some cables on the floor or something to get over and have a laugh with Konami. And it was just kind of intriguing how, not through anyone's fault, but just the whole stage setup did not seem conducive for, you know, them to be at their absolute optimum, as you expect again as an opening act. However, they just absolutely made the most of it, and they just seemed so at home regardless of all of that. So brilliant performance, loved that aspect. Now let's talk a little bit about the sound. Now at this point I'd love to know what anyone who was actually at the show might say, but it was really hard to tell because obviously we were listening to the recording seemingly from someone's phone, so you can't really hear very much. However, it did sound like there was some problem with the monitoring, like maybe they couldn't always hear everything going on, because a lot of points in the songs it was really everything was working, everything was fine. There were some bits where there were little breakdowns where it did sound like maybe Psyche couldn't hear the backing instrumentals, so I don't know if there were some sound problems. Maybe that's what was being played with on stage, but it was interesting that at some points it felt a little bit like the members couldn't hear each other. However, that being said, at a big venue like this, and especially from the recording being filmed from the back of the room, you don't really get a good representation of the sound, so I don't know if we at home could necessarily tell, but I'd love to know if you were at the gig. Tell us, did it sound like it was all in tune all the way, or were there some bits where they couldn't hear each other? Would really love to know what you think. Anyway, we're going to move on to something unfortunate that's got to come up. We got to talk about this. Now today on my Discord I was shown a kind of like a statement that came out on a gentleman called Dave Cirone, sorry if I'm pronouncing your name wrong, on his Facebook, and he presents himself as being someone who is responsible for the promotion of the gig. Now, there had apparently been some comments that BAND-MAID had too short of a set or some problems like this. Anyway, look, what I'm going to do is I'm going to read through what he wrote, because he worded it really beautifully. I'm going to add some thoughts on this, but I think this is really important. Now, I should point out that I consider myself to be a BAND-MAID fan. I know on this channel we always say #no bias. I'm always kind of trying to keep myself from being too biased towards things, but you guys know I wouldn't have covered this much BAND-MAID if I wasn't really loving the band. I've seen them live, I've covered every single one of those songs, been talking about them all the time in live chat. This is a band I really enjoy. However, I've always said that the true example of a fan, if you're really a fan of something, it means that you can kind of be passionate, but not in a unreasonable way. Now, I think that what Dave is responding to here could be a mixture of some people making genuinely fair, interesting inquiries, or it could be some people saying some stuff which is over the top, which we're going to get to in a minute. But this is him posting on Facebook and apparently responding to comments. So I'm imagining he's seeing what people have been saying in like Facebook groups and stuff like that. Anyway, I'm going to start by reading through, like I say, and then I'm going to have a breakdown of what I think, because the BAND-MAID fandom as a general, I think, is one of the most reasonable fandoms on. I'm not going to name names. There are some other bands where if you say anything negative about the band at all, people jump out of the woodwork telling you don't know what you're talking about. BAND-MAID fans as a general are willing to sit down and talk about things. So I was kind of surprised to see this post. Anyway, let me give it a quick read through. So I'm going to read what Dave posted, and he posted this to BAND-MAID Fans Cafe, which is a Facebook group which I actually really recommend. They're really good, a lot of great people there. I really like it as a general. I haven't read much of what happened in the last couple of days, so I can't comment on anything specifically, but let me first of all read what Dave wrote, because as I say, really well written. So he says, "Hi everyone. I've seen a few posts read the disappointment about BAND-MAID's short set. I can tell you guys with 100% certainty that no one is disrespecting BAND-MAID, especially not the members of the Last Rockstars, who all hold the band in high esteem." Yeah, I mean, let's just cover a couple of points there first of all. The short set. They're an opening band. I mean, effectively, all they're there to do is warm up the crowd before the main act come on. And so they did, 20-minute set in the one that I saw, 5 songs. They did 4 songs before, so I'm imagining at least 15 minutes on the other night. 15 to 20 minutes as an opening set is not particularly unusual. I know sometimes you get half an hour opening sets, but usually 15 to 20 minutes is pretty normal. So, I mean, if you thought that they were cheating out of time, then I don't know, maybe see more gigs. I mean, that was a perfectly normal length opening set as far as I'm concerned. And then it says here that no one is disrespecting BAND-MAID. Now, I'm concerned that he even felt the need to say this. I don't know how directly this was insinuated, but if anyone is suggesting that BAND-MAID were being disrespected, as I said in my previous video, this whole setup was a win-win situation. BAND-MAID are not really there to sort of play their entire set list. They're there to warm up the crowd, so when the crowd go away, they can go, "Oh, BAND-MAID, I remember them, I want to hear more." You're supposed to leave the crowd wanting more if you're the opening act, so they'll come back and look for you later. And I think that's exactly what BAND-MAID did here. It was just a fantastic opening set. And then, of course, the bit where he says, especially not the Last Rockstars. Of course, the Last Rockstars are obviously not disrespecting BAND-MAID. I mean, these guys are such a big deal, such a huge thing, these 4 massive rock stars, and they've got such a crowd base as well that, I mean, I said it before, it's a win-win situation. They could have had almost anyone open for them, and they had BAND-MAID. However hands-on that decision was with them, clearly they are okay having BAND-MAID opening their massive tour. So, yeah, obviously they're respecting them. Now, the next bit is the bit where I got a little bit cringy. Again, I don't know what exactly Dave is responding to, but I just feel concerned that he even had the need to have to write this. But he said, "All parties involved knew the limitations ahead of time and the venue rules could not be adjusted to afford more time." That bit's fairly obvious. No one is afraid of being upstaged either. He put that in quotation marks. He says, and then he says, "that's just nonsense." Yes, of course that's nonsense. And look, I'm going to say from the bottom of my heart. Now, I know he's reading stuff for the Fans Cafe. Maybe something was said a tongue-in-cheek and he's read it. Maybe he read it there, maybe he read it somewhere else. But if you genuinely think that they're afraid of being upstaged... Okay, I'm going to play a quick clip from what I said in my previous video.
Last Rockstars. You're big, you're super famous.
Oh no. BAND-MAID, that's a tough act to follow. Now, I know that my fandom is clearly in one corner, but just saying, you're going to have to bring your A game for this one. Now, obviously, I'm slightly joking because we know Last Rockstars, as I said already about Miyavi, we know about X Japan. These are artists who really know how to just burst into a venue and just fill the stage. So I, like the rest of you, genuinely think that BAND-MAID is a hard act to follow. I think they're a huge force of musicianship. I genuinely do think that if I put both bands alongside each other, I wouldn't say that I don't think that Last Rockstars are better musicians than BAND-MAID. I'm genuinely saying this as a fan from the bottom of my heart. But afraid of being upstaged, look, that venue was pretty much sold out before BAND-MAID were even announced. People were coming there for the Last Rockstars. Whatever you think of them musically, hey, if it was my way round, BAND-MAID would be the main show and Last Rockstars would be opening for them. But the crowd was there for Last Rockstars, and so I really hope no one was being that delusional as to genuinely suggest that. I don't think so, though. I think something might have been read out of context, but anyway, look. He goes on to say a lot of things. I'll let you read the rest of his statement because it's really well written. He said, I'm disappointed too. I'd love to have seen a longer set by the group, etc, etc. Anyway, hopefully it's on screen, but go ahead and read more of it. Look, I'm going to give some final thoughts on this. The bottom line here is that BAND-MAID played a fantastic show. Yeah, not everything was optimal. Some things were slightly working against them. They were an opening act. You expect that anyway. I think they picked a brilliant set list. I think they performed beautifully. And I think the vast majority, 99% of BAND-MAID fans out there just loved it. And, we can discuss, various things about, oh, maybe this could have been better, that could have been better. But just please, when it comes to things like this, remember, people, it's all positive. It's all positive. They're out there playing to a bunch of fans. They get an exposure. It's great. We're all enjoying seeing it. Everyone's happy about it. The Last Rockstars, obviously happy to have them there. I'm surprised they had an opening act at all. Happy to have them there. Obviously, management, everyone who puts this together. There's nothing but positivity here. And in the vast majority of the BAND-MAID fandom, there's nothing but positivity as well. So guys, I hope we can just say this is a celebration. I hope, please people, remember, just sort of keep that positivity moving forwards, because that's what it's about. That's what it's about, being a fan of these bands. Now, I always say on this channel that I'm honest. I'll say it as I see it. If I don't like something, I'll say I don't like it. That's not being negative. It's me sharing my opinion. I always tell people, if you don't like my opinion, say the opposite of me. So by any means, if you think that there's something that I've got wrong here, feel free to tell me. If there's something that he was responding to incorrectly, feel free to tell us as well. But I just hope, as a general, the whole fandom is behind the fact that this was a really great thing for BAND-MAID, and I think it's only going to help them get exposed to more fans. So there you go. Those are my opinions. Hopefully not unpopular. As always, get in the comments. Do tell me what you think. If you were at the show, definitely tell me what you think, you lucky bugger. And until I hopefully see you in Japan for the next one of these very soon, for now, ciao, ciao. I come to Japan, they go to America.